got to tell you another story. A buddy of mine that I went to college with, who passed away recently, whenever we were going somewhere, we would be in the car. Like whenever you're like, welcome to wherever, he'd lean his hand on the dashboard and go first. To make sure wherever he went, he got there first. Like we crossed the Texas state line in Oklahoma first. We'd leave Waco to get to Killeen first. That was the thing. He had to be first. It was so good. So I respect DJ Dirty J. I respect that.
Yeah, my man, that's awesome. All right, man. Hey, look, let's get after. We got a great week coming up here for the NFL. And I want to start off with, it's time to learn, Trey. It's always time to learn when we start Football Insiders. Yep. And we got to ask the all-important questions, which are true or false. And this first one, I think you're going to have some thoughts on. True or false, the Kansas City Chiefs deserve to be underdogs at home to the Buffalo Bills this week?
First of all, let me just preface this. For those that are not aware, this is the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career that he's been an underdog at home. His first 41 home games, they've always been the favorite. That's the longest such streak in the Super Bowl era. Okay, no quarterback has ever gone longer in the Super Bowl era than being the favorite at home than Patrick Mahomes has been. Now, I'm going to flip this a little bit. All right, so bear with me. I'd like to answer it this way. I think the Bills deserve to be the favorite.
Oh,
I don't know if I can go with the Chiefs deserve to be the underdog because the natural advantage from playing at Arrowhead is real and spectacular, much like that episode of Seinfeld. So, I mean, I can't go with the Chiefs deserve to be an underdog, but I will go with the fact that I believe the Bills deserve to be the favorite going into this game. They've played better. They've been a more complete team.
Yeah, I am. Look, I told you, I don't know if you remember last season, Trey, I went to the Chiefs home opener against the Browns.
Yeah, your guy Lucas Niang was playing, yeah.
Lucas Niang, yeah. And
who, by the way, looks like he might be ready to roll very soon.
We're getting there. Fingers crossed. But yeah, Trey, when I was sitting, pretty close to the field, and I will tell you that the noise at some points was actually painful. It was so loud that it was a little bit painful in that stadium. That stadium is unlike anything else. And what I'm really interested in is this is an interesting conversation about sports betting in general, right? Where what we're looking at, I think what the books are looking at is where the Bills are right now.
Hey, Brett, you know what I'm more interested in? Your Wi-Fi connection being better.
Oh, is it not great?
We've had some hits already, so see if you can fix that.
I'm gonna work. I'll work on that. I get my guy on.
All right, do that.
But if you're still with me, the interesting thing is, and we talked about this when we talk about power rankings, the books are really looking at where the Bills are right now and where the Chiefs are right now. And the Bills right now are playing dominating football. And the Chiefs have been in some close games. 1-point victory over the 1-4 Raiders. So I think what we're seeing here is looking at the current environment and then making adjustments off that. I still think the Chiefs win here, by the way. That's just me. That's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, like, let's be honest, okay? The spread is not, just so if anybody is under any sort of like impression that the spread is how they think the game should be played out, that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, please
The
illuminate.
entire point of the point spread is to get as much action as you can on both sides. Like that's the whole deal. Okay, they're not thinking we believe Dallas should win by 3 or the Chiefs should lose by 2.5. Where can we put the number that will get equal amount of betting on both sides? So when a number changes during a week, it's never because of an injury update or because there's been more money coming in on one side or the other. So you want to find a number which allows the maximum amount of bets on both sides of the action. It's like the old line from The Jerk and Steve Martin. So it's a profit deal.
Yes, it is a profit deal for sure. And I think, that's so valuable to understand because, right, Trey, correct me if I'm wrong. Once a book sees money starting to come in on a particular side, that could actually move the line, right? without anything else having
Well,
happened
it
to the
did.
teams.
It did this week. It did this week. Okay, it started at 3. Okay,
Right.
it started at 3, and they dropped it to 2.5 because they want more action on Kansas City.
Yeah. Hey, look, power to the people. And by the way, speaking of action, you can place a bet on this game. I did bet this game.
Yeah.
And I did it, of course, Trey. I, of course, did it at Caesar Sports. And what I did is I synced my Caesars betting app with our good friends over at Pickett. Okay. I was able to do this because
Nice.
Pickett is this great community where I am able to talk with other bettors, let them see my bets, see what I'm doing in the Caesar Sportsbook app. And here is an offer that we have for all of our listeners and viewers here regarding Pick'em. Okay. If you're tired of tracking your bets out of messy spreadsheets or not knowing how much you've won or lost, and in my case, I win quite often if you don't follow me, you need to download Pickett. Okay. Pickett is the best bet tracking app on the market. It makes it easy to track your bets and connect with a community of avid sports bettors. That's the greatest thing about it, Trey, is the community of different people, fans, getting to have that conversation. So what you need to do is you need to download Pickett. You need to sign up today using promo code PFN365. Sync your favorite sports book. Mine is Caesars. Mine is synced. Yours should be Caesars. Get it there, and you can win up to $100 for free. Pickett is 100% free to join and use. And so what are you waiting for? This promo code is PFN365, and you can win up to $100 simply just for signing up. So let's move on with that because, like I said, there's another bet I'm going to place in Caesars, and I don't typically do this because this is a player bet, but it involves a quarterback who's having a bit of a resurgence in his career, okay? And this is a question for you, Trey. True or false? Geno Smith deserved this shot he's getting a long time ago.
You know, he's played great. There's no question about it. They're paying him a lot less money in Seattle to play way better than what Russell Wilson has done in Denver for a massive $230 million contract. So he deserves all the praise. But the answer to your question is, like the last couple of years, he's backed up Russell Wilson. Last couple of years, Russell Wilson wasn't 2022 Russell Wilson. He was still the guy that led, for the most part, that led the Seahawks to back-to-back Super Bowls and were constantly in the hunt, even though there were all kinds of changes on the team. You know, if you want to, and I'm going to call this up right now, you got to look at Russell, at Geno Smith's sort of career, okay? Like he started his first 2 years in the league, he started 29 of 32 possible games. When he was the second round pick of the Jets in 2012, I believe. And after that, since that point before this season, after the 2013 season, between season 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21, 7 seasons. I did the math. He started a grand total of 7 games.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You get sort of pigeonholed at times. And, he got knocked out of the Jets when a teammate punched him in the face, okay? And for Ike Empanali, I think was the guy's name, because he wasn't paying. He said he would go to this guy's football camp. He didn't show up and he wanted the money, So there were reasons why Geno Smith was not embraced as a potential starting quarterback. And some of those were fair and some of those were unfair, maybe. But at the end of the day, he got an opportunity when they decided to move on from Russell Wilson. And remember, this was not Seattle's plan. They wanted Drew Lock to win the job. That's why they included him in the trade. So Geno basically said, no, I'm going to go beat you out. And he's been great. And a couple of those throws against New Orleans where he was running to his left, re-squared his body and threw a dart to DK Metcalf. Those are big-time quarterback plays. Quarterback throws. So he's earned it, and he's cashing in on the opportunity. But with everything else that sort of went around from where he was and all the places he was going, I can't say with great certainty that he deserved this before then because we hadn't seen this from Geno Smith. The last time we saw him in a starter's role, even last year in Seattle when Geno had to pinch hit a couple of times, it wasn't like, oh my God, Geno played so great. No, that wasn't a part of it. He's just sort of embraced this opportunity and has made the most of it. So I mean, no, I'm not sure I can say with 100% certainty, yeah, he deserved this opportunity any earlier than this. But he's got it now, and he's made the most of it.
Yeah, not the first time in Seattle, Trey, where they had a certain plan at quarterback, but then someone outplayed and took the job and got rewarded.
Matt Flynn would hey, I'm right here, guys. I'm right here.
That's it. That's it. Matt Flynn infamously throwing 6 touchdowns for the Packers, parlayed that into a massive free agent contract with the Seahawks, and then a rookie by the name of Russell Wilson came in and changed the course of that history. But yeah, I think Geno Smith has done an incredible job. He's been more than serviceable, as you've noted. He's made, I think you said, big time quarterback plays, and he has.
Yeah. I mean, let's go back to his time with the Giants. I mean, Eli Manning's run as a starting quarterback stopped because Ben McAdoo wanted to put Geno Smith out there, and if people forget what happened there in 2017, they were gonna trot Eli out to be the starter, and then sometime either in the first half or in the second half replace him with Geno Smith. And Eli was like, "No, I'm not doing a ceremonial start. If you want to go to him, and because to be fair to Eli, because that's not fair to Geno. Don't trot me out there just to start to keep this ridiculous streak alive and then turn it over. If you're going to him, going to him. So, and that didn't work out really well. I'm not sure all that was Geno's fault. Obviously, Ben McAdoo had his own issues starting for the Giants, and then he went to the Clippers. Then he went to the Chargers, and that was sort of in the pre-Justin Herbert era where they were trying to figure out a million different things. I mean, he's made the most of this opportunity now that he has, and that's the best thing you can say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, he's sitting at number 12 in the league in passing yards, and at Caesars, he's plus 6,000 to lead the league in passing. So if you're one of those degenerates like myself who see value there,
enthusiasts. We prefer the term enthusiasts.
That's correct. Excuse my ignorance there. But yeah, plus 6,000 right there at Caesar Sports. And like I said, you can track my bets in the Pickett app before everything that I'm doing on Caesars. Before we get into this whole final thing of the rundown, you did a great rundown. You put on I have so much good bleep on this Chiefs Bills game. Just let me know because we could do the entire show on this game. We have a million other things we want to do. No. As long as there will be an opportunity later to just sort of let people know about this game. Here's what I'll say, Trey. I have on good authority that in our Super Smash QB matchup of the week, we may come back to Arrowhead Stadium.
Good, because by the way, we're going to be there a while.
Oh, okay?
Yeah. So make that one the first Super Smash, because maybe we don't get to the other one because this thing, it's ridiculous. But anyway, continue.
That, by the way, in the industry, my friends, it's called a tease. So make sure you're paying attention. To finish up our time to learn segment, we're going to finish with one last true or false. It's a team that we both have admittedly been pointing out are sort of winning despite themselves. But the question here is the Giants.
Yeah.
The Giants, are they the most, Trey, confusing team in the NFL?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're confusing. I think they are who they are, and they've found a way to be successful in a very limited way. So, I mean, I think there are way more confusing teams in the NFL, like the Baltimore Ravens. What are they? The Cincinnati Bengals. What are you? I can't figure it out. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What are you? One week you look good. The next week you need a gift call from Grady Jarrett to not potentially lose a third straight game for the first time in Tom Brady's career since 2002 in 20 years. So I think the Giants are the best way for me to decide the Giants. So I would say false. They're not the most confusing team. Let me get to the premise first, because I apologize. I'm sort of working around it. I think they are not the most confusing team. I think they are a team that is winning a lot of ugly games early that could pay massive dividends down the road. What do I mean by that? If you go look at the last two times the Giants won the Super Bowl, 2007 and 2011, they were never really good in September or October. They just sort of plodded along, won a couple of games, lost a couple of games, but then sort of hit their stride later on. And what Brian Daboll and company are doing right now is finding ways to win ugly. And what that does is it gives you confidence in November and December that, hey, we'll figure this out. We've done this before. We can sort of just, muddy the waters here and not play really, really good football. But at the end, we'll figure this out and find a way to put it in the W column. Like these, and by the way, the Packers win was their best win of the year. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
They were down 17-3 to a team that a lot of people still think is very, very good. I have my concerns about Green Bay. We've talked about them on this show before, but they rallied from 14 down to beat a team that a lot of people still think has a chance to make a statement in the NFC side of the playoff equation. This was their best game. This was Daniel Jones' best game. Threw for 217 yards, ran for another 70 on a gimpy ankle. And Saquon Barkley is the reason they're doing everything. I mean,
he looks like he's back, doesn't he?
A healthy Saquon Barkley is a real good elixir for a lot of things. The Giants are playing good defense, and they're not killing themselves. Like we talk about this all the time. More games are lost than won.
Yep.
The Giants aren't losing outside of the Monday night game where Daniel Jones threw the game-clinching interception to the Dallas Cowboys. Outside of that one, the Giants aren't losing the game. They're doing enough to stay in the game and making winning plays and then allowing someone like the Packers on Sunday on 3rd and 2 and 4th and 2 to throw it twice when you have Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon in the backfield. Like, what are you guys doing? And it was a back shoulder fade that was tipped down on 4th and 2. Like, what is that? So the Giants are maximizing their potential and limiting their liabilities. So in that way, I think they're actually one of the least confusing teams in football.
No, I love it. I agree. I think we get caught up in like they don't look like the most dominant team in football. So them being 4-1,
they didn't when they won Super Bowl 42, and they didn't when they won Super Bowl 46.
Yeah, and
if you're a Giants fan, you feel really good about them not looking good.
Yeah, and I love every time you bring those teams up because it reminds me of I think it was last summer. You sat down with Archie Manning. I got to watch from the sidelines there, and you guys told this incredible story about if it weren't for Olivia Manning, Tom Brady would have a few more Super Bowl rings.
5 more, arguably, because Eli beat him twice and Peyton beat him 3 times in an AFC Championship game. Like that effer could have 12 rings right now. Like, because if you look at the teams that Peyton beat in the Super Bowl, you think the Bears with Rex Grossman were going to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl? No. Do you think that maybe the Seahawks might have beaten the 2013 Patriots? Maybe. But 2015, when they had to go up against Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, no. The Patriots would have beaten that team. So he'd have at least 11, potentially 10, potentially 12, which is just disgusting.
I was cracking up at Archie and you telling that, but look, the Giants are winning football games, and you say this all the time too. Like that's through 5 weeks, you play 5 teams, and however you get it done, and that's what your record is. You're 4-1, so good for them. Let's move on to our actually, before we do that, I just want to say one last thing here about the Giants. Currently, right now, with a 4-1 record at Caesars, they're plus 6,000 to still win the Super Bowl. So just putting that out there, if you want to play that game, I am betting on them this week, and I am betting on them to win the game against the Baltimore Ravens at home. Please.
Well, a couple of things on that one. By the way, if they win on Sunday, they'll be 5-0 outside the division. Their only loss was to the Cowboys. The last time they started 5-0 outside the NFC East was 1990 when they went on to upset the Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl 25. And the Ravens, by the way, as a road favorite, they are 15-4 straight up and 11-6-2 against the spread. So they do pretty well as a road favorite.
Yeah,
and the good news for the Ravens is they're terrible at pass defense, and the Giants can't throw the ball, so it's really not going to be a problem for them.
No, a lot of stuff going in their favor. Well, look, if you're going to play that game, if you're going to bet that game, as we always say on this show, you should be doing it at Caesar Sportsbook. And here's what we have for you if you go ahead and do that. You place your first cash wager, and if you lose, you'll get 100% of your stake back as a free bet. Up to $1,250. And win or lose, you'll also get 1,000 reward credits and 1,000 tier credits exclusively from Caesar Sportsbook. The only thing you have to do is enter promo code PFN Full PFNFULL. The link to do that is in the comments. Whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is, go into the comments. The link is there. And all you got to do is click on it, promo code PFNFULL. That promo code comes to you direct from Caesars Sportsbook, where Trey is the chief trends officer, and I exclusively place all my bets. So let's get on to our second segment of the show, Trey. This is becoming an ongoing segment that I when I write the script, that I write the problem with ... and I find out what's the problem. Last week, we talked extensively about concussions and the serious problem that poses. This week is like the sequel to that story, because what we've seen in the week since is, in my opinion, an overreaction to what happened with Tua Tagovailoa and others. And I'm going to just mention two things. One, you've already mentioned, and the last one, and I would love to get your thoughts on this. You mentioned the Grady Jarrett sack of Tom Brady that was irresponsibly called roughing the passer.
Correct.
And then against the Raiders and the Chiefs, Chris Jones breaks through, incredible sack, hits Derek Carr, causes a fumble, recovers the fumble, and then lands with his body on top of Derek Carr, though he did remove his left arm to try to break his fall. That too was called roughing the passer, much to the chagrin of everybody. And so, Trey, I have to ask you, is this going to be an ongoing problem with the NFL and them being so reactionary to the news cycle?
It is, and not only is it going to continue, but the NFL has doubled down. As we found out on Twitter today, Perry Fuel basically sent out a video explaining why that was the right call with Chris Jones. And let me just say, Perry Fuel is 100% wrong. And I can go by the letter of the law and the rule and explain to you why he's 100% wrong. But they're not going to back down, because they're reacting to how bad the league, the Dolphins medical staff, the unaffiliated neurological consultant, who is no longer a UNC, messed up the Sunday. See, all this is based on what happened in the Thursday game with Tua. But what happened was the Sunday game. That's where they screwed it up 1,000%. And they now, ataxia is what it's called when you have a brain injury where you lose motor function, and that's now a no-go situation. They have made that a no-go situation. How that wasn't a no-go situation beforehand makes no sense to me. But that is now, no matter what test you pass, how many fingers, what year is it, what is this, blah blah blah. If you have that sign, then you are a no-go. So all of this is a reaction to what happened when. By the way, I just got to say this. When Tua was tackled, I mean, you could make the argument he was slung to the ground.
Yeah.
Much harder than Tom Brady was slung to the ground.
Exactly.
And they didn't call it there. So now what we're seeing is this reaction. And the NFL's biggest problem to me is that they're not proactive, they're reactive. Okay? They could get ahead of this in a couple of very simple ways, but instead they're doubling down. And I understand why on some level they are, because their thinking is, I'd rather have more penalties than backup quarterbacks playing. Totally fair. I understand that. But give the defenders a freaking chance. Okay? Now, here's where I believe the NFL is lying to themselves and lying to all of us as fans that have this thing called vision. Okay? Because Grady Jarrett, they said he slung Tom Brady to the ground.
Right.
Go watch that tape. He was tackled around the waist and brought to the ground. He was not slung down to the ground. He was tackled around the waist and brought to the ground. In fact, if you want to talk about someone slinging a quarterback to the ground, go look at the Monday night game between the Raiders and the Chiefs. And in a goal line situation, Patrick Mahomes was literally slung to the ground, and they didn't call it there. So the inconsistency is ridiculously mind-boggling. But by the letter of the law that the NFL has on their rule book, the Grady Jarrett play was not roughing the passer. He was tackled around the waist and brought to the ground in about the most gentle way a 340-pound guy can bring down a baby giraffe. Okay? Now, let's go to the Monday night game.
Yeah.
They said it was a penalty because he put his full body weight on Derek Carr. That is a lie. That's a lie. It is an untruth. Again, If these things called eyes work for you, you know that as well. Go look at the replay. Chris Jones comes up, strips the ball out with his right hand, somehow tucks it away as he's tackling Derek Carr. And as they're falling to the ground, you clearly see his left hand bracing himself on the ground so as not to ensure that his 310-pound body puts its full weight on Derek Carr. That wasn't just not a penalty. That was teaching tape. Like, that's literally every defensive coordinator should take what Chris Jones did to Derek Carr on that play and say, guys, this is exactly how you need to do it, because he secures the ball. He gets his chest sort of on Derek Carr to bring him to the ground. And as he's falling down, he says to himself, holy bleep, I can't crash on this guy or I'm going to get a penalty. So I'm going to extend my left arm to take the impact of my weight driving Derek Carr into the ground off of him. Check, check, check. It was perfect. It was perfect. And then the NFL today had the audacity to say, no, it was bull bleep. And they know it. They know it. They just don't, they want to pretend like we don't know it.
That's the thing that I take issue with, Trey, is the don't gaslight me.
Don't lie to me.
Come on.
Don't lie. Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Yeah, it's out of control. And look, here's the world that the NFL has set up, Trey. Because I want to use these two examples that are so egregious. On the one hand, you're penalizing Grady Jarrett, who slung Tom Brady down so as not to put his full body weight on him. Okay. Yeah. Now you go and Chris Jones and that play against Derek Carr, where he makes an effort to not put his full body weight on him, and that's a penalty. You've created a world where in no way can a defender bring the quarterback to the ground without creating a penalty for himself. And on top of that, this is the thing I take the most issue with, where Perry Fuel and the referee involved and everyone else seems to conveniently ignore. Chris Jones recovered the fumble before they went to the ground.
Correct.
In no way could Derek Carr continue to be a passer.
Well, Carl Cheffers was asked about that. Carl Cheffers was asked about that in the postgame show, and he defended that. He said in the postgame pool reporter with Adam Teicher, he said even in that situation, he's still given the protection of being the passer, even though the fumble was out there, which is another ridiculous thing.
Absurd. It's absurd.
He can't be a passer if he doesn't have the ball.
No. So the ball carrier runs the passer.
You know what you need to do to pass? You need to have the ball. So how can you be a passer if you don't have the ball? It's dumb. It's dumb.
It's real. Like I said, don't gaslight us. Just come out and say, look, we screwed it up. We got it wrong. Just say that. We'll forget it by today. We wouldn't even be talking about it.
I would love it. I would love it if those plays could become reviewable. And this is why I've always been a proponent of what Andy Reid suggested a few years ago. We need a sky judge. Can I tell you a quick couple stories about referees?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Because the referees see the game linearly, right? They see it one-dimensionally like this. You, me, everyone watching sees it from an eagle's eye view at 180 degrees or 360. You know, we see this completely different texture. Now, and I'll give you an example. A former referee, who I will not say his name, who now works in television, once said to me, he said, Trey, when I was refereeing, I thought we were great at what we do. I thought we were amazing. And then I watched a game on television. I'm like, we are terrible. Because they can't see the things that we see. Yeah. They can't see it in this flat line. Like they see it only in this flat line, unlike we see it, in this global view. Another time I was flying back from LA and I saw this guy on his laptop. He was charting plays of a game. I'm like, wow, you must work for the NFL. He goes, yeah, I'm a referee. I said, let me ask you. This was right after the NFC title game between the Rams and the Saints at the Superdome. The Nickel Roby-Coleman play where he decleated Tommy Lewis, I think it was, or Tommy Harris, whatever it was. I can't remember. Little wide receiver. I can't remember his name. And I was like, guys, how do you miss that? He actually said, well, actually, I was on the crew for that game. And we screwed that up big time. He said, as we saw it unfold on the field, none of us thought it was a penalty. But then when we watched the replay, we were like, holy shit, we blew that one. Yeah. So give the referees the opportunity to see what we see, because it would make them better. They would be better at their job. They would get it right more often. They would not feel like the world is against them. And I know there's some sort of protective parenting level to this, where the NFL and the NFL Referees Association doesn't want them to be second guessed.
Right.
Second guessing them is way better than roasting them for being so egregiously wrong. Okay,
Yep.
it would make them better at their job. Let's get the sky judge and let's get those plays reviewable. Okay.
Yep.
Now I get it, because like they tried to review after the Nickel Roby Coleman play, they tried to review pass interference, and Marlon Humphrey literally like stripped a wide receiver once in Baltimore. It was so obvious it was a pass interference call. And John Harbaugh challenged it, and they said, no, that wasn't PI. He's like, well, you're lying to it. You're gaslighting us again, because they tackled him. Basically, he tackled him, took off all his clothes, wrapped him up, and sent him home. And they said, no, it wasn't a penalty. So maybe it won't do any good, because they're not gonna do it anyway. But those plays should be. If Carl Sheffers watched that replay of Chris Jones, he would see, took the ball out, didn't crush him with his body, and used his left arm to make sure his weight wasn't there. But they'll never do it. They'll never do it, and it's maddening.
That's why, Trey, I'm not upset with Carl Sheffers. I'm more upset with Perry Fuel, because he did see the replay. He knows what he's saying.
It's so bogus. It's so incredibly bogus.
And look, the last thing I'll say on this is, if they're
I'm sure you said something poetic, but I didn't hear it.
Can you hear me now?
I can now, yeah.
Okay. What I said was that the issue I have here is, if the refs find ways to be better at their job, the game is better for everyone. It's better for the players,
$100,000,000%. Yes.
So I'm glad I got my mic working again to say that, because whenever you agree with me, I know I'm on the right side of history. All right. Now, let's move on here to our third and final segment before we take some questions from the fans and the audience here. This is our Week 6 Super Smash QB matchup of the week. We alluded to who we think it might be, because it is a marquee matchup. But Brian, go ahead, get it going. Let's see what we got selected here.
Let's go.
The battle for supremacy in the AFC. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Trey, I'm going to take a back seat here, because I am really interested in what you got for us on this game.
Well, first of all, let's just be honest. Like, this game in the 2020s is very similar to a game in the 90s. Every year, the Cowboys and 49ers would meet in the regular season. And that was essentially going to decide where the NFC Championship game would be played. And it was the game. Everyone wanted to watch it. This game has taken on that magnitude, because these are clearly, in my opinion, with all due respect to Philadelphia, the best two teams in football and the best two quarterbacks in football, in my opinion. And I can't – this is the fifth time they're going to play since Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes were drafted in 2017 and 2018. And I am 100% here for all of this, all of it. Patrick Mahomes has only lost once, last year in the regular season at Arrowhead. This is delicious on so many levels. And I have so many numbers I want to fire at you here. So let's start with this one. Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL in touchdown passes with 15. Josh Allen leads the NFL in offensive touchdowns with 16. Let's take it one step further. Over their careers, Patrick Mahomes starting in 2017, Josh Allen starting in 2018. These two, right now, Patrick Mahomes in his career, whether running the ball or throwing the ball, averages 2.6 touchdowns per game. Josh Allen averages 2.3 touchdowns per game in his career starting in 2018. Why is that significant? Right now, minimum 60 games played. These are the top two players in the history of the NFL. In the history of the NFL, in generating the most touchdowns per game. Mahomes at 2.6 and Josh Allen at 2.3. And arguably, yes, because of the way the game is called, that's skewed towards these players being here now. But let me explain why it's also significant. This is the fifth time we've had a matchup since the AFL-NFL merger of 1970 of the top two touchdown-generating players on the field at the same time. Here are the winners of the previous four meetings. Peyton Manning, who was in this twice, Hall of Fame. Brett Favre was in this Hall of Fame. And the future Hall of Famer, Tom Brady. These are the winners of the previous 4 times these two teams have matched up. Now, let's take it one step further. This game is at Arrowhead, where, as we established earlier, that Patrick Mahomes is an underdog for the first time in his career longest streak ever in the Super Bowl era for a guy not to be an underdog at home. In the previous 4 meetings of these top 2 touchdown generating quarterbacks playing off against each other, or players generating off each other, the previous 4 winners were all the home team. So that would favor Mahomes. And after that, the better news of the previous 4, each of those previous 4 winners, that team either went on to win the Super Bowl that year or that player was named NFL MVP. So that's just sort of one way to look at this. Now let's take it another way. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are 1 and 2 in touchdown passes. Mahomes with 15 and Josh Allen with 14. That is the most combined ties for the most combined touchdown passes in a Week 5 matchup in NFL history. I think it was 2007, I think it was, where Brady and Romo played in a game, and they had the same number of touchdown passes, 29. But we're talking about in a Week 5 matchup, we've never had more touchdown passes between the 2 quarterbacks. Let's take it one step further, just for fun. They are the top 2 quarterbacks in terms of generating points and generating passing touchdowns, but they do it in completely different ways. Okay, Mahomes and the Chiefs lead the NFL in receiving yards and touchdowns by running backs and tight ends. Conversely, Josh Allen and Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs lead the NFL in receiving yards to wide receivers and receiving touchdowns. So you have these 2 incredible quarterbacks with these 2 incredible teams generating all kinds of points and doing it in completely different ways. Like, it used to be, right? It used to be the narrative of the Chiefs was, well, you just got to take away the big play. Big play from Tyreek Hill. Don't let him beat you over the top and you can win. They do not care about that anymore. They are way more meticulous about how they run their offense, going down the field, longer sustaining drives, which, by the way, in the end is probably better for that defense in Kansas City. Meanwhile, it is now the Bills who are the over-the-top, bust open that defense with our playmakers on offense. Gabriel Davis on a 3rd and 10 from the 2-yard line, 98-yard touchdown. Stephon Diggs is a big play waiting to happen. They've almost flipped, okay? Because it used to be the Chiefs with a big play waiting to happen, but could they work their way down the field steadily? Yes, they can. And now it's the Bills who are the big play waiting to happen, and there might be a little more concerns about how can they effectively march down the field in a slow, methodical way. It is fascinating on so many levels.
Yeah, I am so excited for this game. This is what we never got with LeBron and Jordan.
Yeah.
Right. And we're getting
this is the modern day Brady Manning.
Yeah.
And like I know people love Herbert and I know people love Burrow, and I get it. These 2 guys are the best.
They're the
best. They're the best. It's not the same.
But I Bear, don't get mad at me for saying this, but here's something that I think. The way that both these players, and you just illustrated this, the way that both these players play the position, the amount of excitement they bring to it while being elite passers, that's a difference than what we saw with Manning and Brady, which was more of this cerebral, field general sort of matchup. When we're talking fireworks when we talk about these 2 quarterbacks being on the same field in the same game. I'm just really excited for this matchup. I love that we talked about the story that the Chiefs are underdogs here. We saw last week against the Raiders. I don't know if you feel this way, but when the Chris Jones penalty happened, it lit a fuse in that team, right?
Yeah.
They
were pissed.
They were pissed.
Yeah.
We've seen what happens when that team feels it's been slighted. And I wonder if that's something that being an underdog at home to a team you beat in the playoffs last year is another thing that could light that fuse for them.
Well, can I throw a couple other things at you, which I find just
before you do, I want everyone watching to understand the giddiness that they're seeing from you is so 100% authentic that I hope they can appreciate it the way that I do. But please go ahead.
All I'm saying is I want this. I wish they could play this game 3 times a year, right? Like these are the best 2 players in football.
Yeah.
Real quickly, let's just go back to the Monday night game. Okay, they were down 17-0. Right? They come back and win. By the way, how weird is that we've had 2 teams already through 5 weeks of the season give up 17 or more point leads? The Raiders have done it twice, and the Ravens have done it twice. Yeah. How crazy is that? In the history of the NFL, which goes back 100 plus years, there's only 2 other times ever where a team has given up 2 17-point leads and lost by week 5. 2 times ever in the history of the league, and we've had 2 teams do it twice already this year, which is nuts. But in that game, okay, in that game, they came back from 10 down. Patrick Mahomes' record as a starting quarterback when he falls behind by at least 10 is 12-9. That's a winning percentage of .571. Well, why is that significant? Since 2018, that's when he took over as a starting quarterback. During that same time frame, from 2018 to now, every other quarterback who has been down by at least 10 points, and there are about over 1,000 instances of this. Okay. So again, he's 12-9, .571 winning percentage, 873, 973. Yeah, it's about 1,025 games. Okay. You know what the winning percentage is for every other quarterback when they're down 10 points from 2018 to now?
I don't, but I know you'll tell me.
152.
Oh my God. Really? Is it that low?
0.152. Wow. He's 571. He's 571, but he wins a little more than half the time when his team is down by at least 10 points. Nobody else can get to 20%.
That's crazy.
They're not even to 16%. Like it's insane. There is no safe lead when you play Kansas City. And I hear Bengals fans are saying, you're right, there's no safe lead when you play Kansas City. Because twice last year they came back from 11 down to beat those guys, including the AFC Championship game. So on both levels, no lead is safe in Kansas City. But here is, and I've saved this one for last, just for you, because it is far and away my favorite stat in this game. The Bills in 2022 have given up a grand total of 7 second half points. Okay? That's it. 7 second half points. This is what Kansas City does. Yeah. They average an NFL best 15.4 points per game in the second half. And to take it just one step further, just to how crazy this matchup is, the Bills have allowed 7 second half points all season long. Patrick Mahomes has 7 second half touchdown passes. Like it's so good. It's so good.
The numerology on this game is like, I can't put my finger on if I can recall being excited for a regular season game the way I am for this.
Like you weren't alive in the 90s, so I understand. But
for the record, I was 100% alive in the 90s.
What were you, 2?
It's irrelevant. I was alive.
Okay, good. So you were a carbon-based life form. You don't understand. Like when it was Steve Young and the Niners, and it was Troy Aikman and the Cowboys, and it was Ricky Waters and Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and Charles Haley on both sides of the thing, and Deion Sanders on both sides of the thing, okay? That was the game to watch. Yeah. It was the game of the year when the Cowboys and 49ers played. That's what Buffalo and Kansas City is, and it's off the charts good. And oh, by the way, let's just throw this out there. With the 4 touchdown passes on Monday night, Patrick Mahomes passed, of all people, Troy Aikman on the all-time touchdown pass list with 166. Yes. And by the way, weirdly, they didn't recognize that. I thought that maybe that should have been part of the broadcast, but whatever.
Off camera, I will share a very interesting note about that with you. And unfortunately, to our viewing audience, I cannot share that with you. But it is very and by the way, what Trey just said about Troy Aikman, Steve Young, that 49ers Cowboys rivalry, no, I don't remember it vividly as a fan. But Trey, we sat down with Steve Young on our other show, More Than Football, which you can find Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And that episode with Steve Young is one of my favorites, not just because the story he tells about the bond that he and Mike Shanahan share, but how meaningful and pressure packed that rivalry you just talked about was for him. Yeah. What it meant to play and beat the Cowboys and what it meant for his career.
Well, it was the same way that Peyton Manning had to beat Tom Brady. Otherwise, it would not be complete. He had to beat him in the playoffs, and he ended up beating him 3 times out of the 4 times they played in the AFC Championship game. By the way, Tyler is asking, just real quickly, we're worried about slowing down the game to review penalties. No, get it right. Get the frick right. Like you're telling me that Chiefs game, you weren't going to watch it if they took 3 minutes to review that penalty? No, just get it right. Just get it right. That's all we ask. Just get it right. Real quickly on the Steve Young thing.
Yeah.
The greatest story about that is that they lost back-to-back NFC Championship games, one in Candlestick and one in Texas Stadium. And on the way down from the elevator, from where they were watching the game, they got in the elevator. It was Carmen Policy, who was the general manager, and Eddie DeBartolo, who was the owner. And they just were coming down, and they just lost again, 38-20, I think was the final score. That was when Bernie Kosar had to come in for an injured Troy Aikman, who was actually concussed when he played in Super Bowl 28. He was off the entire game. They didn't say a word. And halfway through the elevator ride, Eddie DeBartolo just turned to Carmen Policy and just screamed at the top of his lungs, "Do something! Like, I'm tired of losing to these guys. Do something!" And I think that's sort of where we are in this rivalry. Like, look, the Bills beat them in the regular season last year. Kudos to them. They've lost both the playoff games. I know that they'll feel really good if they win this game, but they know that, well, this is the appetizer. These two teams are meeting in the postseason. Now, this game may determine where that game is played in the postseason, but they know they're meeting in the postseason. They beat them last year 38-20, I think it was 38-24, maybe. It was pretty handily. And that was when the Chiefs fell to like 3-4, and then they decided to go on their scorched earth policy for the rest of the season.
We'll be good again.
Yeah, and they got really good really quickly. So to me, there's a lot of pressure on Buffalo, like not only in this game, but in the entire season. Like outside of the first Buffalo team that went to and lost that Super Bowl 25 to the Giants 20-19, the expectations are not only are you going to the Super Bowl, but you're winning the Super Bowl. Yeah. You can't, like anything else, anything less than a Super Bowl win for the Buffalo Bills will be crushing defeat for this season. That's not an easy thing to carry all season long.
No, we've been saying it. We've been saying that on this show the whole time, and that goes to what Steve talked about the pressure of that rivalry with the Cowboys. With that pressure about winning the Super Bowl, they know that doesn't happen unless they beat Kansas City when it matters.
Yeah,
and this is sort of that precursor to that, And so that's why this game is so important. But listen, everybody, we have another wonderful partnership with our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. I am an avid Underdog player. Okay, and this matchup in particular is a great one for you guys to go play over at Underdog. You can get Josh Allen higher or lower than 295.5 passing yards. And at the same time, you can get Patrick Mahomes higher or lower, 302.5 passing yards, plus a slew of other players from every single game this week to get up to 20x your money, 20 times the money that you deposit. You can win playing Underdog Fantasy. Now, just look for your favorite player stats. Pick where you think they'll end up with a higher or lower total than that number in this week's game. And as I said, you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. I've done it twice this season so far. It is simple to get started. Just head to underdogfantasy.com or download the app and sign up with promo code PFN. And here's why you want to do that. Promo code PFN. Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. But wait, there's more. If you deposit $10, you'll also get a free month subscription to PFN Pass, where you can reconnect to the game of football with interactive experiences, proprietary research, and educational courses from yours truly on PFN Pass. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code PFN. Join me and get in on the action today. And I'll also say that in addition to Caesars and Underdog, I've synced both of my accounts for those into Pickett, and you can track everything that I'm doing with the Pickett Sports app. So make sure you download all of that stuff today. Look at that Caesars goblet right there, Trey.
Beautiful.
Drink the red wine out of that
goblet. Right behind me, as you can see on the shot right there. Right?
There it is. There it is.
Right there. Okay, I know we got to move on. I got some more stuff here. Like, it's so good. Like, it's just so good. Okay.
I'll never tell you no, my friend.
All right. Mahomes has 15 touchdown passes through the first 5 games of the season for the second time in his career. He's only the third player since 1950 to do it in multiple seasons. You want to take a guess who the other 2 are?
No. Manning
and Brady.
I was going to say Brady, but I thought that might be too easy of an answer.
Manning and Brady. So that's where he is, right?
That's
Allen,
the company he's in.
Allen has 1,876 offensive yards and 16 offensive TDs. That's tied for the 6th most offensive yards in the Super Bowl era for a quarterback. But it gets better. Allen is averaging 375 yards of offense per game in 2002. That's the most in the NFL. The current NFL record was Drew Brees in 2011 when he averaged 347. So he is at this moment blowing away.
I mean,
the Drew Brees offensive machine of a few years ago. The Chiefs and Bills are the top 2 leaders in points per game in the NFL. The Chiefs, believe it or not, are first at 31.8, and the Bills are second at 30.4. The Chiefs average 2.9 points per drive in the NFL. That's the highest. The Bills average 6.7 yards per play in 2022. That's the highest. Like, it doesn't stop. The Bills and Chiefs rank in the top 2 and third down percentage in the NFL. The Bills are at 55.7. The Chiefs are 52.5. That's 1 and 2. It just goes down the list. And I know there's a great game in the NFC East, and more people. I'll tell you this right: more people are going to watch it because it's the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. But I'm sorry, Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. It's not a more fun matchup than this. Like, it's the funnest matchup of the week.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I promise you this: if this game were being played later in the season, this would be flexed into the primest of primetime slots that they have.
This isn't a primetime game is a crime against humanity.
Yes. But hey, look, we got the Commanders and the Bears on Thursday Night Football in just about 15, 20 minutes. So can't wait for that one. Hey, before
the good news is it can't be worse. It can't be worse than last Thursday night's game. Like, literally, it cannot be worse.
Don't say that because, man,
I just did.
Listen, before we sign off here, I want to give a big shout out to Pro Football Network's Harif Hassan. He wrote a wonderful, well thought piece that I actually disagree with on some points, but that isn't the issue here because it is a wonderfully written piece that I think really gets you thinking about what we talked about in our second segment and the situation with the NFL being reactionary to penalties. So go check that out at profootballnetwork.com. Arif Hassan has written some amazing pieces. Please, like I said, go check that out. And everything we do, whether it's More Than Football with Trey and I, Football Insiders with Trey and I, everything can be found at profootballnetwork.com. So go do that today. He is the one and only Trey Wingo. I am the multiples of the Brediverse and Brett Yarris. And we will see you next week in our normal time slot, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks a lot, Trey. This is always fun, man.
You got it, buddy. We'll see you later.